was pretty much smacked in the face with, wow, this is everything that goes into special needs planning, and these are the mistakes that us as financial advisors can make.
Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast for financial professionals, bringing you life insurance insights from advanced sales experts and life insurance specialists. Grow a stronger practice today.
Welcome to another episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. I'm your host, Bill Bell, Vice President of Advanced Sales with Penn Mutual, and I am so pleased that you chose to join us here today. We have a co-host again here today, Jenna Washatka, Advanced Sales Superstar, is with me here today. Hi, Jenna.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me again.
Very important question right off the bat. Summer is now come and gone. You have mentioned on the podcast before your affinity for a place called the Big Dipper, which is your favorite Cincinnati ice cream spot. How many trips to the Big Dipper did the Washatka family make this summer to the Big Dipper?
We actually just went this past weekend. Not enough this summer, if I'm being honest. But I will say today is a very important holiday in Cincinnati. I don't know if you're aware of this day. It's the main reason why I'm not wearing a blazer and I'm instead wearing a sweater. And it's because today is Pumpkin Spice Latte Release Day. So we are, like it or not, entering fall season. So yeah, I guess we'll be replacing the ice cream with some PSLs this fall.
I'm not a big PSL fan, but I can understand that people that are, that would be an exciting day.
I am not surprised to hear you're not a PSL guy. I kind of knew that already. But for those of us in the Midwest, the PSL release day is a big deal. So it's a good day.
I get it. All right. Well, we laugh a little bit about ice cream and other things on here, but our topic today is really no laughing matter. It's a very serious topic. It's a very important one. And luckily, you have a lot of expertise in this particular topic because I really don't. This was something that's really important to us at Penn Mutual. So why don't you kind of set the foundation for what we're going to talk about today and who we're going to talk with?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're super excited to have Pat Bergmaier, who is a special needs financial planner with 1847 Financial. He has over 20 years of experience specifically in the special needs planning community. And it was something I've worked on for about a decade, but it really wasn't until the last year that I dialed in and did the program with the American College, the CHSNC, which is one of many designations that Pat himself has. It stands for Chartered Special Needs Consultant. It's a great program for anyone who's interested in this space. You'll hear Pat and I talk a little bit about it, but I think this is one of those areas, Bill, where I find that most financial professionals know very little about special needs planning. And I think that includes most of us in the advanced planning world as well. And it's one of those areas where there's always more to learn. But if you're looking for one of the few financial professionals that knows a lot about it, you're going to find Pat on that list. Absolutely. So we were super excited to have him here at a very busy season in his life.
Terrific. In fact, when we're talking about financial professionals and special needs planning, if you don't have that expertise, we always recommend partnering with somebody that does, just because it is such a serious matter. And if you don't do things correctly, it can have some serious implications for the clients. Do I have that correct?
Absolutely, Bill. And it's one of the things that Pat and I talk about a little bit on the podcast. It's tough because this is one of those areas where you find a lot of financial professionals who they get a case, they really just want to help. It's a family friend, it's a friend from college, it's their son, it's their daughter, and they're coming to us because of this one case. And I think, Bill, you and I can kind of relate to this going through law school and coming out of law school and having people come and ask you questions about, hey, I've got a legal issue, I've got a situation, and you come to realize very quickly that the best thing you can do is pass that case off to someone with the expertise that can answer that question, rather than me try to teach myself an entire niche area of the law and probably get the answer wrong. So that's really the punchline, is that when it comes to special needs planning, if this is an area that you want to specialize in, there are absolutely channels you can do that. But if it's a case here or two there, that's where we would encourage you to connect with a financial professional who has the expertise in that space. And actually, that's one of the resources that we have at Penn is our special needs planning directory. So one of the tools that we've been taking a closer look at this year is our special needs planning landing page on Gateway. And if you're not familiar with Gateway, I know many of our seasoned listeners will be, but if you're a newer listener to our podcast, you may not know that's our financial professional resource site. But our special needs resources page It has a number of resources, our materials for running a workshop, client materials, underwriting sample cover letters. But one of the tools we have is our special needs planning directory, which is a list of financial professionals that have been through some kind of special needs planning training, whether that's through the American College or really some kind of robust training where we feel that these are financial professionals that you can bring these cases to and really pass it off to the experts to make sure that the client is getting that tailored recommendation, because this is definitely one of those areas you don't want to dabble in.
Totally agree. And Gateway can be found at gateway.pennmutual.com. All right, we're going to get to that interview that you did with Pat here in a second. But first, I have a special announcement. So, Jenna, did you know that we have a special mailbox just for Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast?
You know, I did, but I don't think I could rattle it off it quickly. So
yeah.
Why don't you refresh all of our memories?
So that mailbox is Life Matters at PennMutual.com. Again, that's Life Matters at PennMutual.com. And usually I talk about it at the end of the podcast, but I'm talking about it here today because we are going to have a special episode coming up at the end of November where we are going to empty the mailbox and answer listener questions on the podcast. So if you've ever had a question in regards to advanced sales or what Jenna's favorite dish is at Skyline Chili or what Jay Perlman does when he's on a motorcycle ride, please send us an email to lifematters@pennmutual.com. We may include it as part of that special November mailbox episode of the show. I personally love those types of episodes. We're going to have the entire advanced sales team as part of that particular episode. It promises to be a rollicking good time. I'm sure everybody is already salivating with the thought right now of that particular episode. So, Jenna, we'll save one of the good questions for you.
Oh, perfect. I feel like I already have one for you, Bill. What is Bill Bell's favorite deep cut by Metallica?
I would have to say that's probably Leper Messiah, which is the 5th song on Master of Puppets. It's just a rocking good time. So
awesome.
So anyways, let's get to that interview you did with Pat, and we'll be back on to wrap up the show afterwards.
Pat, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be here with us today. It is an absolute pleasure.
Appreciate it, Jenna. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So first of all, off the bat, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So I'm Pat Bergmaier. My partner and I own a financial planning and investment management firm outside of Philadelphia. Our core focus is working with families that have loved ones with special needs. I've been doing it since 2005, which seems like a really long time. And our focus on special needs planning has been since 2008.
Awesome. You know, and out of curiosity, going back in time, can you tell us what really intrigued you about this market? How did you get in this market in the first place?
It's a great question. I think when I meet with prospects for the first time, they usually ask me that too, because I don't have a direct tie to special needs, which a lot of my peers do. I think it was good timing, some dumb luck that happened. It was 2007 or so. I think I was either studying for my CFP or just got it. And I realized I have all this knowledge, and the work I was doing back then, I was like, this doesn't seem as exciting, as sophisticated as some of the knowledge I have now. And our previous firm had a dedicated division to special needs planning, and I was lucky enough to get chosen to take part in the training. I went to it, was pretty much smacked in the face with, wow, this is everything that goes into special needs planning, and these are the mistakes that us as financial advisors can make. And after a few minutes of quick market research, I realized there really wasn't anybody else in the Philadelphia area that did special needs planning. And I felt like it was a differentiator, but it really allowed me to do work that was more sophisticated. And for whatever reason, it is a little bit more rewarding, helping these families that have a lot on their plate. And man, that was 17 years ago. So
yeah, man. And I know my colleagues and I talk a lot about just the importance of this market, that life insurance itself is such an important market, protecting families, but this is almost just like the next level of planning. Now, out of curiosity, I know it's probably hard to put a number on it. But if you could put a percentage on what percentage of your practice is working in special needs planning versus not, what would you say is like a rough percentage of cases that you take?
I'd say existing clients, it's probably like 70% of our existing clients have some tie to
Wow.
special
Okay.
needs, one or another. The new
Yeah.
clients that really I'll spend time meeting with, it's probably like 95% of the clients that I'll meet with are parents or caregivers of somebody that has a disability.
Yeah. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but what is the importance of working with someone, not just a financial professional, but a financial professional who has expertise in special needs planning?
Oh, I think there's way too much to mess up in special needs planning. And it's advocacy too, in the truest sense. I mean, we get to be the voice for somebody that usually has no voice at the table when decisions are made on his or her behalf. And for somebody like that, the sensitivity of this community, it's you can't dabble in it. You can't try it and be somebody's guinea pig. It's you got to do it every day, and you got to realize it's more than just the money, and it can't be approached like the typical cookie cutter textbook approach that the average advisor approaches the clients based on age and what they have.
I think you're right, Pat. There really is so much at stake in these cases. And just to name one, certainly the importance of not messing up someone's government benefits, right?
For
Not
sure,
having
yeah.
some kind of like permanent forfeiture of someone's government benefits. Now, I want to lead into just looking for broad brushstrokes. What are some of the key differences from a financial planning perspective when you're working with a family of a child with special needs?
That's a great question. And I think I can put it in perspective, Jenna. You and I are both parents, right? We want to live a long life. We want our kids to live many decades beyond us. When you have a child with a disability, these parents, it's like a 180-degree paradigm shift. They want to live one day longer than their kids because their biggest worry is what happens to them, who takes care of them when me as the parent, I'm not the one here to do it. So I think that was the biggest eye-opening thing for me when I started talking to these parents. Also, it's more the the legacy side of things. It's not hey, it would be nice to leave money behind to my kids. Like some parents will navigate their retirement planning. If they leave money behind, great. If not, they're more focused on the retirement income, which is fine. In special needs planning, the legacy is a necessity. You've got somebody that's going to be relying on these parents to some extent for the rest of their life. The parents need to leave money behind to fund these vehicles that are going to continue providing for the quality of life for these individuals. So I think that changes everything textbook financial planning wise that we've been taught, even as CFP practitioners, on managing somebody's retirement and their goals. Their goals extend beyond this like one generation of it's just me and my spouse that needs to navigate retirement, not run out of money. We need to do that, but also fund possibly millions of dollars for the next generation to care for somebody that needs care for the rest of their life.
Let's talk a little bit about retirement. I had the privilege of hearing you speak a breakout session at FinSecond's Advanced Markets, and I heard you do a presentation on the three-person retirement. Can you speak a little bit to what that means in this context?
Pretty sure I coined that phrase, but I don't know if I can take credit for it. So, three-person retirement, the difference in this, and which makes our job so different than the textbook approach to planning, is you've got one lifetime of income, the parents, to help them save enough money, retire, enjoy their wealth while they're here, not run out of money. But you also have this third person, and sometimes more than one, if they have more than one child with a disability, that we're continuing to support this individual through retirement. So we have to factor that expense into the parents' spending, but then fund that retirement for that individual via their special needs trust when the parents or the primary caregivers are gone. And that there kind of changes everything from tax planning, investment planning, insurance planning. It's all looked at differently when you're dealing with those two generations of income.
Yeah, I know that was an eye opener for me. At one point, you had helped me kind of understand that I work for life insurance companies, right? And so it's easy for me to see the benefit of having life insurance in these cases, but it's not just about the life insurance piece, right? There's also this third person retirement concept where it's a holistic approach is going to take a lot more into account than just a life insurance conversation. Now, I know you mentioned, so you're a parent, I'm a parent, and I think it's fair to say that I and probably all parents feel constantly overwhelmed just by everything. How do you have these conversations about these heavy issues about wanting to provide for a child with special needs after your passing, like, how do you have those conversations with parents without just completely overwhelming them?
I think it's the importance is acknowledging it, acknowledging that we understand and kind of sympathize with their situation, where they're at with their plates full on a daily basis, not just with their child with special needs and the IEPs and the ISPs and all the numerous other acronyms these parents need to know. But they've got other things like their other neurotypical kids and ball games and everything else they're trying to do as parents and as couples in life. So I think, acknowledging it, number one, speaking their language is key. You can easily discredit yourself by not understanding the language in the special needs community, properly addressing the individuals with special needs. The people first language that they call it is a big one. And one thing I do is I preface a lot of my questions in the initial meetings with clients that they're going to be hard ones, that they're going to be difficult ones. I mean, back in the day when we used to meet people in person, we always had tissues in the room because the first question usually would start the tears coming because it's the most overwhelming one. But I asked them, like, what if something happened to both of you yesterday? What does today look like? And I just don't say anything. And then they let that sit. And that's their biggest fear is, yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this, because it scares us. What would life look like, not only for our child, our other kids, if we weren't here being mom and dad? And I think connecting with them there, even though, again, I don't have a child with a disability, it's connecting with understanding that every conversation I have, they're not alone. Every parent with a child with special needs kind of has those same fears. I think that may help ease some of their initial apprehension and worry before they start a hard, difficult, emotional conversation.
Can you speak to what you mean by people first language? Can you give an example? Because I hear that all the time. And it's one of those phrases, like, for me, I hear the phrase key man and bristle, and I always just wish people would use the phrase key person. Like, can you speak a little bit to what you mean by people first language?
It's an understanding that these kids, somebody's baby, somebody's daughter, somebody's son, they're still a little boy, a little girl, or an adult man or woman first before the fact that they have a disability. Like, their disability doesn't define them. And I mean, there's movement in the special needs community where some people are okay with identifying their disability first, but I think to be safe, it's to understand that you still have to refer to somebody as a child, as a daughter, as a son, as an individual first, and they're not 100% defined by their diagnosis. So that's what people first language is. It's not an autistic kid or a down. Oh, this one makes me cringe. A Downs person, which some people still say. And like, I didn't know 17 years ago before I went through this training. And I think that's what financial advisors, we don't know what we don't know, which is why we stay in our lanes. And I realize I don't want to be everything to everybody. I want to be everything to a select group of people and say, look, I'm having the same conversation 3 to 4 times a day. It's all the same, but it's all different. If that makes sense, because there is no manual for this.
Absolutely. So just as a quick example, instead of saying an autistic son or autistic daughter, you would say a child with autism, or putting the person before the condition. Another word I heard you use that I personally did not know until I did the class at the American College is the word neurotypical. I heard you use it. Do you mind providing a definition of what neurotypical is and why that's helpful when having these conversations?
So I would do a poor job giving you like the clinical definition of it, but I'll give you
I'm
the
also putting
example
you on
that
the
was
spot.
made.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. The example that was given to me, and this was probably one of the first in-person workshops that I did, somebody in the crowd, because I probably identified the individuals the wrong way, called me out during it, which I'll never forget it, said, you know, my regular kids, that's not how I define them. I look at regular as a setting on my washing machine. They are my neurotypical kids. And then I have my child with special needs. And I was like, I like that. And it's a very fancy sounding term, but it's there to describe the fact that, yes, they may not have a disability, but neurotypical is better than kind of putting a negative spin on it.
Yeah. And again, I think we can all acknowledge that these are difficult conversations, and this is difficult language. You're probably better than any of us at it, but I think having some of these definitions in mind, some of these rules of thumb, and really just listening has been helpful for me, at least as I kind of venture into this world. I do want to ask you, so you and I both work with a lot of financial professionals who they are, for one reason or the next, they've got either a case or they're interested in working in the special needs market, but they have no experience in this market whatsoever. And the most common example I get is it's someone's like, it's my brother, it's my niece or nephew that has
Yeah.
special needs, or it's my best friend from college and, his daughter has autism and they want to do a special needs trust and the FP wants to help, like we all do. What would you say? So, first part of this question, what would you say to someone like that who is, for lack of a better term, this is their only case or they're dabbling in special needs planning because they want to help the one person? But the second part of the question is, what would you say to someone who really has a passion for this community and they're new, but they would like to become credentialed, they would like to go through training? Where would you direct them and what kind of resources and support would you turn them towards?
So had this actually come up earlier this week. So a special needs client, case, plan, whatever you want to call it, cannot be addressed in a 5-minute conversation with somebody like me. There's so much more to it than getting them government benefits or having a special needs trust or doing the financial planning, which, majority of financial professionals, they're good at financial planning and they are also good at getting in their own way. And the problem is we can, like I said earlier, I don't want to be a business owner planner. I know enough about that to be dangerous. I've got colleagues that specialize in it and talk that talk every single day. Somebody that's ultra and high net worth. You're worth over 25, $30 million. Like I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't have those discussions every day. There's some unique things in those planning scenarios that somebody that specializes in it would be better served to work with that client. And time is sometimes more valuable than money. I'd rather have my time back to focus on the clients that I want to work with and delegate or introduce and hand off a prospect like that to those types of specialists. I think the best way a financial professional would be served working in special needs is be the relationship manager, hand off that prospect or client to me or somebody like me, and then with no better way of putting it, get out of the way because you're going to get in the way because you have these preconceived notions on how planning should be done for the average person, and it's going to skew the way that you should be doing this. I've seen that every time somebody's brought a case to me.
Yeah, and it reminds me of being like a recent law school graduate and having, lots of friends and family coming out of the woodwork and asking for help. And the more time that has passed, and the more I've come to realize the best thing I can do is steer you to someone with expertise in that area. This is not something I am going to be able to advise you on and give you, but it's that desire to help, right? Like you're like, this is my friend or this is my brother or whatever it is. And that is something that we will do at Penn Mutual. I know you know this, but our listeners probably don't, that for financial professionals that are licensed with Penn Mutual, we have a directory, a special needs planning directory of financial advisors. You're on there. Several other members of our quarterly meeting group are in there. And it's for that purpose, for when we get that call to say, hey, here's a list of financial professionals who have been through training, who specialize in this area and would be happy to work with your client. I know you've done the course at the American College. I've done the course at the American College. Would you say that's like kind of the standard for someone who's newer in this space to start with that designation? Can you speak a little bit to that or what training you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean, that one is the only industry designation for special needs planning. Is it going to make you a specialist in special needs planning? No, but it's going to give you a lot of that good core foundational stuff if you haven't been through like one of the trainings we do have done at Penn Mutual, trainings at other firms that my previous firm that would put on for financial professionals. That's a great first start. I think the CFP should be the foundation if you're going to work in special needs planning, because that's going to give you the robust training about multiple facets of financial planning that you need the background in. And then a lot of it is you. I mean, getting on boots on the ground, going to conferences, reading books, signing up for newsletters, just reading anything and everything you can to better serve these families. That's kind of what I did. I dove in, and it is not going to be an immediate gratification thing to advisors trying to transition their practice into this. This community has to know that they can trust you, that you're not in this. Yeah, we get to make a living. We get to do well for our families by doing well for other people. And this is amazing in the special needs world. But I think you need to develop that trust in that community first, that you not only know what you're talking about, but you're here for the long run.
Yeah. It's funny. I think the irony that I have seen as I myself have entered into this space is It almost felt like at first, the more I learned, the less I knew. And I didn't know how much I didn't know until I started learning about this stuff. So, yeah, really appreciate that perspective. So, I know a lot of families will use a special needs trust, and it's certainly not for everyone, not for every client. Can you give us just a quick intro into what is a special needs trust and for what kind of family might it be appropriate for?
I'll answer this like I typically do. And I do this in a way not to detract from the wonderful attorneys in the world, present company included, is a special needs trust is a legal document that, when done by an attorney that does specialize in special needs planning, it will do probably the most important thing that it's intended to do, which is to protect government benefit eligibility for the individual with a disability, where we can eventually fund this trust document, turn it into a trust fund, and we could have millions of dollars in it, and none of it jeopardizes government benefits. That's probably the most important intention of that special needs trust. However, a legal document alone without a cohesive complementary financial plan on how to fund that trust does absolutely nothing. It's just a legal document. It's just something that was well paid for, well written, but may never do what it was intended to do, which is provide for the quality of life and lifetime care of these individuals. So that was probably a very wordy answer to your question, but the trust is and probably has to be the most important legal document that anybody that does have a child with a disability should have, because it's the only way to fund and not jeopardize benefits.
Yeah, no, I think that was a perfect answer. And I guess a couple things I would add that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. One is like the importance of working with a financial professional who specializes in this market. We always tell people that this is such a niche area of law practice and that
For sure.
you really should not be working with even just a general estate planner. You really want to work with someone who has expertise in special needs trust planning. And of course, it's not the only document, right? But I totally agree with you that the special needs trust is kind of the foundation of maybe not for everyone, but certainly for a lot of clients.
Now, look, I mean, our work's not complete without it. So
Absolutely. Now, again, I work for Penn Mutual. This is a Penn Mutual podcast. We're a life insurance and annuity company. So I'm a little biased here, but I do think life insurance is a pretty good fit for a special needs trust. Can you speak a little bit to why that might be a good funding mechanism? And also how you even go about, like, how do you even decide how much of a death benefit or a policy to put in place for any given situation?
that is an easy question that the answer is it depends. But I would say the two main goals of any parent that has a child with a disability. Goal number one is the same as anybody else, is to be able to retire, hopefully as soon as possible, spend their money, not run out of it, to have enough money to live their life and have a high probability of not running out of money if they do live to 95, but also not skimp and be able to enjoy things while they are here if they don't make it to 95. The second goal in special needs planning is then to fund this special needs trust with enough money in it to provide for the quality of life for the lifetime of this individual with special needs that could live till they're 95 years old. So the problem is with these two goals is they clash. They conflict with each other for the rest of the parent's life, because the more money they spend on themselves, the less money that's there for funding the trust. So life insurance, you can create a solution that covers goal number two. You have this life insurance policy that is guaranteed, tax free, to fund the special needs trust, the intention of what these parents want to do. And the leverage you get behind it and the freedom it creates to allow them to spend their money differently, knowing that we don't have to protect principal, makes our jobs a lot easier as retirement income planners to get them more income because we don't have to protect that principal. So I've tested other strategies. I've also read and studied reports by individuals a lot smarter than me, doctors of economics and statistics, on the role that insurance can play in a retirement and legacy plan. And it has been tested as one of the most efficient ways of doing both. And I haven't had anybody prove to me otherwise a more tax efficient way to leave money behind. So people that say they don't believe in life insurance, there's advisors, which I struggle to call them advisors. It doesn't make sense. How else are you providing the highest, most tax efficient legacy while maximizing income if you're not incorporating some level of insurance planning for your clients, or at least talking about it and letting them make an educated, unbiased decision, you know?
I love that. I think the phrase that I hear a lot when it comes to special needs trusts and legacy planning is quality of life. That this is about kind of going above and beyond those basic benefits that government benefits might be able to provide, but really providing the peace of mind that there will be a legacy there for the quality of life for the individual. Do you mind speaking just a little bit to how Penn Mutual can support financial professionals who are in this space and anything unique that you see about Penn in terms of the special needs planning community?
Yeah. So when my partner and I were interviewing other firms back in 2014, 2015, the reason we aligned ourselves with Penn Mutual is because of the dedication, commitment to the special needs community, which is not common amongst a lot of, financial institutions wanting to serve this type of community. And over the past 10 plus years I've been here, they've created a proprietary special needs planning calculator to at least give us a starting point to figure out how much we need to fund these individuals' special needs trusts based on projected times of when we think parents are going to pass away. It is a great start in coming up with that number that we're otherwise just kind of guessing what is needed to be there. I think those are the two main things. Their commitment to it from an advanced planning component, their commitment to design and create insurance products directly serving special needs planning in the insurance field, the arguably most competitive whole life product, survivorship whole life product, term insurance that has got the most competitive conversion options and the ability to convert into survivorship. You don't see that everywhere. Or some potential sensitivity and compassion to families that have loved ones with special needs. So that is why we align ourselves. We trust the decisions that they're making. And I mean, they're serving this community and they're one of only a few that do it. So
Thank you for sharing all of that. And one of the things that I personally love from a home office perspective is we have a community of financial professionals that meets about every quarter. And I know you're part of that. You're always part of that. And it's just a conversation to kind of see what everyone's working on and to share ideas and maybe to discuss upcoming conferences. That's how I don't know. I just think it's a really great opportunity for us to interact with each other and to really work with some of the best minds in the space. I just want to pick your brain about a couple things. So one thing that I heard recently, and I just thought was so interesting, is talking and thinking about the role of siblings in a special needs planning scenario, because it seems like the obvious choice is to have a sibling be the trustee or have a sibling be the one that will be the primary caregiver, just because the assumption is that that will be the person that is going to be the one that takes it the most seriously or whatever, they're the closest in the family. What are your thoughts in terms of like, what are some alternatives for families, maybe resources that they may not even realize are available to kind of help alleviate some of the burden from a sibling?
So I try to address this with every single one of my clients because unfortunately the neurotypical sibling or siblings are the default caregiving plan without, number one, having a realistic adult conversation with our other children about what that means. And special needs planning is focusing on quality of life. You mentioned it earlier, the quality of life of the parents, the quality of life of the individual with the special needs. We can't focus and maximize those two and neglect the quality of life of the neurotypical siblings. And that is what will happen if the default plan is they're just going to live with their brother or sister. That can't be, or this sibling's going to be the trustee, and that could cause some relationship issues if the individual with special needs is higher functioning and knows they have money, but they have to ask their sibling who's constantly telling them, no, you can't have it. I've seen that cause some rifts in relationships. So I think parents need to understand that there are other resources. There's corporate fiduciaries that can be trustees. You have to get ahead of the housing solution for your child with special needs. You can't just expect them to live with you until they die, because what if you as the caregiver predeceased them? Then just think of the mess that would leave behind if you've got a 40, 50, 60-year-old disabled adult living at home with their parents their entire life, and then the parents aren't able to or are no longer here to do it. That keeps me up at night because it is also the hardest decision for a parent to make, which is to have them live somewhere else besides with them. And I think it's, again, continual conversations around, we need a plan. We plan for everything else. We need a plan to transition your child out of your home to somewhere else so you can test these waters while you're here and identify where those siblings will play a role, that they can be plugged in, but not, I hate saying burdened, but burdened with day to day, week to week. I have to worry about my brother or sister living with me, waiting for their transportation to show up to get them to their job or their day program or whatever it may be. It will negatively impact quality of life. And look, when we have kids of our own, Jenna, they take precedence over our siblings. And I've got potty training and school and a newborn and soccer season starting and ball games and cheerleading and 9 days
It's
a
a
week that
lot.
I need to get my kids to everything. How would that change to affect my
Yeah.
kids if I had to provide caregiving for if I had a sibling with special needs? It just wouldn't be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's how parents have to understand it, as hard as it is to understand it.
Yeah. I have personally been blown away by how many resources are out there. I honestly just didn't know that there are organizations that can help with all different
Oh, yeah.
kinds of aspects of this planning. If you could draw like the perfect support team for a client, let's say the client walks into your office, you're the first stop, you're the first person they've met with, and you recognize like, hey, financial planning is part of this, but there are so many other people you need to talk with. We've talked about the attorney, but like who else would you say you also should have as part of your kind of ideal support team here?
That's an awesome question because I realized early on I can't know everything, nor do I want to know everything, but I wanted to surround, myself, our team around people that specialize in other areas that'll be a benefit to our clients. So yeah, absolutely. The attorney, I think like you said earlier, finding one that does focus and specialize on special needs planning to draft the legal documents, having a government benefits specialist to help with navigating a super confusing world of government benefits that you can introduce clients to help them with applications, denials, appeals, navigating that world. Again, all this stuff is private pay, so it's not stuff that we're waiting for the government to provide us. Having somebody that understands tax planning with special needs, that's a very nuanced area, especially when special needs trusts are funded, that also walks and talks on the same side of the table as us as financial professionals. Somebody that can help them in, I think the biggest gap in most parents' plan is care management, which is the organizations, they're all, private pay. You can essentially a la carte concierge level choose when and what you want them to do for your loved one. If you're still here as parents and you want them to go and physically check in, drive and take your child to the mall, to a meal, to the movies, because you're not here to do it, or you're traveling and they can check in on your child if they're living independently or with supports, or I think most importantly, that the neurotypical siblings can leverage these agencies that provide care management to deal with the weekly, monthly stuff that is involved with their brother or sister's life. And then the siblings can be involved with some of the really big, important stuff, but they don't have to live in the same town or be logistically close or make their life decisions wherever they might take them about having to be nearby to their sibling. They can use these care management agencies the way that they're intended to be used.
So, are there any resources, books, podcasts, newsletters, like things you find yourself coming back to again and again and again when you're working with these families or for a financial professional?
Yes. I mean, it's sign up for every newsletter publication from any special needs organization, local organizations to some of the national ones, because they send all the most recent updates to laws, able accounts, benefits, and also the bad things that happen. So you can know like some of the things that have happened with poor trustee work or, extortion of funds. There's a lot of bad things to help educate your clients to avoid. Read the books that get into the letter of the law and special needs trusts. The counties that all of us live in usually provide publications that talk about government benefits and the services available. You got to read through and understand them, and not understand them enough to be dangerous. Look, we're not social workers as financial planners, but we need to know enough about this stuff to direct clients to the right places and continually read them. Like a lot of the books I've read were probably old now. I don't know if they've come up with newer editions, but a lot of them have kind of laid the foundation for some of the concepts and timelines that I incorporate with clients. So, but yeah, the Special Needs Alliance is great. The Academy of Special Needs Planners has a newsletter that is awesome. Those I read front to back every month that they come out.
Amazing. Amazing. Listen, I don't know of any podcasts in this space, but I feel like you might have one in your future. All right. So we like to end all of these podcasts with just a couple totally fun questions. First question. So there has been a lot of debate on my team, especially. They've got a lot of people fired up about Neapolitan ice cream. So my boss, Bill Bell, wrote an insights blog about the 3 flavors of executive bonus, kind of being like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, Neapolitan. So I just help us settle the score. You're in the grocery store. Are you buying the Neapolitan ice cream? Or are you the one that's kind of scooping one of the flavors out of the middle?
Not a big strawberry fan. I would probably eat it if it is there because I do have a sweet tooth, and we have a ice cream place. I don't know if it's national. It's called Handles, where you can get like 4 different flavors of ice cream, which is awesome because you can
That is
combine
awesome.
them into many different unique flavors. But no, I'd probably go for like a cookies and cream and something like
Okay.
that.
All
Eat the
right.
chocolate and
Okay.
vanilla. Leave the strawberry.
Last choice, strawberry. All right. So if you were not in financial services and we're in the multiverse, right? And there's another Pat Bergmaier, what career does another Pat Bergmaier have somewhere?
So I played baseball in college. And that was a different era. Now, like if I knew what I knew now and a more mature Pat Bergmaier, and would have done what these kids do now to focus on their craft, maybe it would have been baseball. I don't know. I never had this quite the stature as some of these major league ball players have, but to study the game, to watch film, to be ahead of the curve, like a lot that goes on now compared to 20, 25 years ago. Maybe that. Other than that, it's hard to because our career, our practice allows us the flexibility to always be around with our kids. And I haven't had to report to a boss for 21 years. I couldn't imagine having to do that. So I couldn't imagine being in a corporate 9 to 5. Somebody's telling me what to do, where to be, when I can eat lunch. That would be hard. So I'd be running
Yeah.
probably some business that I own myself.
Gotcha. Entrepreneur at heart. Honestly, this has been amazing. I know our listeners are going to get so much out of this. I did. There's so many resources that I'm going to go sign up for immediately. We really appreciate not only your commitment to this community, but also to sharing with other financial professionals. I know you're not one that's shy of giving back, and I think this is just a true testament of that. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here and for all your great insights today.
I appreciate it, Jenna.
Wow, Jenna, what a great interview. So I've known Pat for a while now. He actually chairs a committee that I help to run as part of the Penn Mutual ecosystem. So he and I work pretty closely together, but just a great guy, lots of great insights. And most importantly, he agrees with me in regards to Neapolitan ice cream. Why does it exist? It doesn't need to exist. Chocolate's just a better choice. And vanilla if you have to have a little mundane flavor. But yeah, we don't need Neapolitan.
Oh, man. See, I'm vanilla all day long, which, probably speaks to the pumpkin spice latte side of me. But no, Pat is an absolute class act. And I think one of the things that's so great about Pat is not only is he one of the experts in this space, but he is always willing to give back. And I think just him carving out the time to do this podcast is just another example of the many ways in which he does that in this community.
If you were going to have maybe a takeaway or two from what Pat had to say, what would it be? And what should our listeners really be focused on when they're thinking about special needs?
I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways is just where to go for more information. And I think everyone's takeaway will be a little bit different. But for me, it was really helpful to hear because this is one of those areas where I mentioned it. I'll say it again. It feels like the more I learn, the less I know. And I think I'm kind of getting on the other side of that now, but just really dialing into what are the resources that the experts are turning to? What are the newsletters that Pat is reading every month? What are the digests that I absolutely need to be subscribed to stay up to date in this space? So for me personally, that was probably my biggest takeaway.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jenna. Great co-hosting as always. Some reminders for our listeners. First of all, we have that special mailbox. Jenna, what was the email address for that special mailbox?
Whew, I'm glad I wrote it down, is lifematters@pennmutual.com.
That's right. It's lifematters@pennmutual.com. So if you have a question for me or for Jenna or Pat or anybody else associated with the show, you can go ahead and send that over. That is a special mailbox that only I have access to. And I do answer every email that is sent there that is not junk mail. So again, lifematters@pennmutual.com. And again, a reminder, in November, we are having a special mailbox episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. So get those questions in. Second, Jenna, we were reminded by our marketing team of some of the amazing resources that we have available, not just on special needs, but on the broader gateway spectrum as far as estate and business planning. Can you share some of those things that the marketing team wanted us to remind our listeners of?
You bet, Bill. And I think the first one is just really recognizing an incredible amount of content that's coming out from the advanced sales team. To date, we are at 16 client brochures, one of which includes a special needs planning brochure. It's on Gateway. And second thing is really to take a look at our business planning page, again, on Gateway. A lot of resources where if you haven't been on Gateway recently, we'd encourage you to get back out there and check it out and see what we've been working on.
It's gone from a website with a lot of content to a good website with a lot of content in regards to kind of how it's been organized and how everything has been set up. So if you haven't checked out Gateway recently, I definitely encourage you to do so. A reminder to our listeners, if you're listening to this on a podcasting medium like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, we also put these podcasts on the Penn Mutual YouTube channel. Now, Jenna, I got a chance to meet your kids for the first time recently, and they just could not be quiet about how much they enjoy the Penn Mutual YouTube channel. And I know a lot of our listeners out there, they're checking it every single day, but for some of you, you haven't done so yet. We see the numbers. There's a lot of listeners to this podcast. There's a lot, but less viewers of our YouTube page. I would just encourage you to check it out. I mean, Jenna, how many times a day are you on the Penn Mutual YouTube page?
Quite a bit. I mean, my favorite series, I know I'm biased because I can't say the podcast. So I'll say my second favorite, which is the Bites, Sites, and Life Insurance Insights, which is kind of like a Food Network / interview with top financial professionals. My only advice is don't watch it while you're hungry, but really, really well done. So yeah, there's lots out there on the YouTube channel.
Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any future content. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, make sure you do that today so you don't miss any future episodes of this particular show. And then finally, if you are a subscriber on Apple Podcasts, stop by and leave us a review. A star review only takes a few seconds. A written review only takes a few more. If you do so, next time you're in Cincinnati, I'll make sure that Jenna buys you an ice cream I called it the Big Dipper. You corrected me. It's called the Dipper. But we will make sure that you get a free ice cream the next time you're in Cincinnati if you leave us a review and let me know. So please do so.
We will even include sprinkles, favorite topping, like you name it, we'll make it happen.
That's absolutely correct. And if you're there in December, unfortunately, the Dipper will be closed. But I'll personally buy you Baskin Robbins because I know that those are going to be open 12 months a year. So, all right. For Jenna Washatka, for Pat Bergmaier, I'm Bill Bell. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.